There's something that's been bothering me for a while about our political climate. Well, there's a lot of things actually, but let's just focus on one. It has occurred to me that the Republican Party is not particularly conservative. Now let me be clear, I'm not saying that they're liberal, but in terms of being conservative versus progressive, it's hard for me to see the Republican Party as conservative. And let me be clear, I'm not talking about whether their ideas are good or bad. This isn't a video about whose opinions are right or wrong, but this is a video about ideals. Because that seems to be what the Republican Party has become. Idealistic. Let me back up. What does it really mean to be conservative? It means to be cautious. It means to hold tradition and status quo as more important than ideals or reform. And yes, I understand that we use the terms conservative and progressive just as labels for broad political positions. It makes talking about politics easier. But think about it. Progress isn't singular. You can make progress towards any number of ideals or positions. Get 1,000 people in a room and ask them what they really think the world should look like. And you're likely to get 1,000 different nuanced answers. We've sort of accepted this narrative that politics is like a tug of war between two sides, between two separate ideals. Politics isn't a tug of war, it's an open question with 1,000 different answers. But there's only one here, and only one now. And conservative means holding the here and now above dreams and ideals for the future. It means holding on to what we have, because reaching towards the ideal can lead to unforeseen pitfalls and consequences. Conservative isn't just another set of ideals that oppose the progressive set of ideals. Conservative is suspicion of all idealism. That doesn't seem to describe the Republican Party these days. They aren't trying to maintain the status quo. Taxes have rarely been lower in living memory, but Republicans want to lower them still. Unions have rarely been weaker in living memory, but Republicans want to weaken them still. Republican candidates talk openly about what entire departments of government they want to completely eliminate. They talk about cutting programs that have been around for as long as I've been alive. And whether or not you personally believe that those ideals and values and agendas are right or wrong has absolutely no bearing on whether or not they are conservative. They are not. They're not. Like all ideals, they're progressive. And some people might call them regressive if they disagree. But they aren't that either. The world Republicans want to see has never existed in living memory. With a few notable exceptions, they aren't looking to tear down recent changes and put them back to the way they were when they were children. When they were children, taxes were higher. When they were children, unions were stronger. When they were children, government was big. So they're not looking backwards. They're not regressive. They're not conservative. They're progressive. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I'm a flat-out dreamer. I'll call anything into question. Republicans aren't wrong for being progressive. We all have a world that we want to see, that we hold in our heads or in our hearts. Like everybody else, I've got a dream. And there's nothing intrinsically wrong with dreaming, as long as you know it's a dream. But see, there's a value to conservative, too. There's a value to trying to make things work rather than always trying to make them better. A room full of dreamers all believing that they know the one truth about what will save our society can never be anything but at odds with each other. Imagine there's no taxes. Imagine there's no hunger, no poverty, no red tape, no pollution. Imagine personal responsibility. An end to all war and hate. Imagine all the people living for the dreams in their own head. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Good enough isn't glamorous. Make it work doesn't fire people up. But that's conservative. Without it, we have nowhere to place our feet. The problem with calling a group of idealistic progressives conservative is that there's no one left to be conservative. Maybe we don't have enough conservatives in government because, in truth, we don't really have any. And I kind of wish that was the end of this video. A simple call to conservative, to making things work, to caution and reason. But there's something ugly that I haven't talked about yet. See, something happens when you take a progressive movement and label it conservative. It's not just semantics. Words aren't just arbitrary labels. They have weight. They have subtext. They make you feel things. What does conservative make you feel? It makes you feel like a defender. Subconsciously, we know what the word means, that it means caution, tradition, and status quo. When a conservative movement becomes idealistic, it wages war not just against the progressives, but against the status quo itself. Such a position becomes naturally unassailable, intractable. With a true conservative, you can argue on the basis of facts and tradition. But a progressive who calls themselves conservative is more interested in their opinions and their values. Talking about taxes being evil and government being useless is idealistic speech. It's not based on the status quo, it's not based on facts, it's based on how you feel. And whether that opinion is right or wrong or not isn't what makes it conservative. And with a progressive that knows that they are progressive, you can at least point out that they're marching into the unknown. They might decide that the need outweighs the risk. Slavery and civil rights come to mind. But you can have that conversation. With a progressive that believes that they're conservative, you can't have that conversation. For them, there is no risk. For them, there is only the truth. There is only what they know things should and must be. Because to them, that future, those ideals, are conservative. Their opinions are what is cautious. It's everything else that is reckless, including the status quo, including the world that their parents made for them. They'll tear it all down if they have to, for the sake of what they know to be righteous. And that's about as far from conservative as you can get. So if you are conservative, I'm not saying that your ideas are wrong. This isn't a piece about opinions. This isn't an indictment of your beliefs. But if you hold those beliefs above the status quo, above making things work, above the America that we've had for the last 20 or 50 years, that's not conservative. When you hear people talk about what we can change about America to make it better, whether it's something they want to add or something they want to cut, that's not conservative. That's progressive. And sometimes, as progressive as I am, as progressive as most of us are, I think we need conservative. And not just because I think other people might be wrong, but because I think I might be wrong. I think we all might be wrong. And sometimes it's better to stand back and celebrate what we have, rather than argue about who can make it better. That's conservative.